Hey guys, I'm back with another early morning video. This time very quick on how to make seeding files for our Sequelize database. So I've seen a lot of people try to do this the old way with going into Workbench or SQL Pro and making actual SQL statements to insert values into the database. In this case, we can do a lot of this stuff using Sequelize's syntax and the CLI. So this tutorial is going to assume that you have both Sequelize CLI and MySQL 2 installed, probably globally, because I believe that's what I told you to do. So in this case, I am back here at the authors and posts association activity. So let's look at the model real quick. Inside of authors, you can see that authors simply have a name. So I'm just going to make a bunch of authors real quick. So first off, let's kick off the server. Make sure force true is not set in your server, or else it's going to keep dropping the table every time and your people aren't going to show up. But in this case, let's go. All right, cool. So we have no authors. And we can go back and kill this. Cool. So in this case, what we want to do first off, we want to make a seeding file. So Sequelize uses the CLI to generate actual seeding files for you. This is something a lot of full stack frameworks do. And you have to use the language that they want. So it is Sequelize seed create. Maybe it's create seed. I don't know. Let's see. Seed create name, and then let's give it a name. So let's say author seeder. Yay, first time. I always forget if it's seed create or create seed because, you know, maybe dyslexia. Cool. So in this case, we can see what happened, and we got this folder over here that says seeders. And when we open it, it's got this kind of string of things, and then the name that we gave it. So author seeder. So let's open this and see what happens. So what they do is they give you sort of a bit of a template for going forward. You notice we have an up and we have a down. So essentially, these are referring to whether we want to put things into our database or take things out of our database. There are also example inserts or deletes here. So in terms of a delete, we put that in the down, and they have a little example here, but we're going to be putting something in. So I'm going to take out their comments, and I'm just going to use their thing here as an example. So in our up, what's going to happen is we're not running a migration, we're running a seed. But when we tell it to run the seed, it's going to go in, and it's going to look at both of these functions, and it's going to say, cool, like execute this one, then execute this one. And in this case, we're just going to be inserting something. So bulk insert, meaning we can insert lots of articles into our database here. So we are pointing at our author table, but that is going to be in our actual database as authors. And in this case, we do not have a is beta member. We do have a name, so I will make a name for this first one. I'll call him David Hallinan. And then we have to do one more thing. We're going to have to make a created at and an updated at. And we want to set that to be a new date time right now. So in this case, you'll run into some errors in that even though these are created automatically by Sequelize, it wants you to give it a new date time when you make this here. So the ID there is no issue with, but the timestamps it does not like. So you can throw a comma after this object and start adding them like this if you want. And let's say we want to do 5, and let's, I don't know, come up with some new HR puff and stuff. And also Ernest Hemingway, because that makes sense. And also chicken, because there wouldn't be a tutorial of mine without chicken in it. And also fish. Great. So in this case, we have 5 authors right here. So name David Hallinan, Puff and Stuff, Hemingway, et cetera, and that's inside of here. So essentially what we want to do is we can go back into our app right now. Let's run the server again. And so this itself doesn't actually do anything, right? So we don't have any authors inside of here, but we can kill this, and then we can run these seeding files with a certain CLI called now. So Sequelize db : seed :all. Now we can call an individual seeding file, but in this case, you usually want to run all of your seeds. So this is going to go through, it's going to find a seeding file, and it's going to run everything inside of it. So if we had ones to make posts, if we had ones to make users, it doesn't matter. It's going to run every single one. So we can press return, it's going to go through, and it's going to say, cool, here's your string-based operator thing that we get on everything. It's going to load the config JSON file first, if you notice, because then it's going to say environment development. So it's going to look at what we are and where we're running to know what it wants to see. So this will work for deployed databases as well. It will go in, it will see that the process env variable is getting used, and it will put it into your database that is deployed. In this case, it knows that we are doing this locally. So it's going to migrate, and it's going to say, cool, it took 0.02 seconds to migrate. And so now, if we load this up, we should see a couple of authors inside of our table. And voila, there we go. So David Allen and Puffin Stuff, Ernest Hemingway, Chicken and Fish. Cool. So that's just a quick tutorial on how to do this. The point of this is that we don't need a file for DB with a schema made up of SQL or a seeding file like we used to, because Sequelize doesn't use those things. So essentially, this is using their methods and syntax to give us an ability to push this up, and then everybody has access to this. So we don't actually always have to seed the database, but we can make seeds that sit inside of our code base that each one of your group members, say for instance, can have this file and then seed the database to have the same data to look at. Cool. That is the conclusion of that. Pretty simple. So yes, I will show, I'll make a new video on migrations coming up next, and I'll get that up for you guys soon. But it's really early in the morning, and I still haven't finished my coffee. Okay, cool. Peace. See you later.